Good morning, Beth.
Morning.
Welcome to the channel. For everyone watching, Beth Goddard is a skilled facilitator, connector, and coach who founded Firefly Futures Limited. Beth is also a facilitator for Engineers Without Borders and an accredited practitioner and faculty member at Lumina Learning. Beth trained as a coach with Animas in 2021 and works with new and emerging leaders all around the world. People have described Beth as purposeful, powerful, playful, and presentful. And it's my pleasure to invite Beth to the channel. Welcome to Animas.
Thank you very much. I liked the introduction. It's nice to have myself reflected in that way. It's made me smile. So thank you, David.
Wonderful. Well, we aim to please. And, to kick off, I'd love to just welcome you to tell us a little bit about you and how you got into coaching, because as someone I can scroll through literally have to scroll through all of your roles in LinkedIn. You've done so much and you're involved in so much at the minute that it's difficult to know where to start.
Oh, bless you. I appreciate that, and I'm also very aware of it, that it can be it can seem like a lot, but coming to your question, how did I get into coaching? It's quite a funny story, actually, because I didn't ever foresee myself training as a coach. I am very comfortable with my role as a facilitator. I have been, holding space and managing, for want of a better phrase, learning journeys in all sorts of different iterations over the course of my career. But it was a Lumina Learning, or rather it was a Lumina commission, where the guy that commissioned me asked if I was a coach. And I said, well, I kind of naturally coach, so yes. And then he said, what credentials have you got? And I said, oh, I don't have any. And he went, well, we can't employ you then, because actually it's part of the due diligence of the organisation to ensure that everyone's credentialed. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And or rather, I asked him, so what do you need me to have? And he went, I need you to have an ILM. Probably shouldn't name the ILM in this particular context, but I just have. So I went and I started an ILM. It was a level 7. I got 95% through the course and went, this is not my style of coaching. I feel really uneasy about the way that I'm being taught to coach. It doesn't feel congruent with who I am. And then found myself on the Animas 3-hour taster and went, this is the one, this one. I looked at the various few, but there was something about the Animas way that really drew me in. I liked the principles, and so I signed up with Animas and then continued my coaching journey, training with Animas, getting my ACC with the International Coaching Federation, and I'm just about to put in for my PCC. So, yeah, my coaching journey started with being a natural coach and then enhancing what I already do and putting it into a framework and understanding all of those, the ethics and the boundaries, and when I am coaching and when I'm not coaching, because sometimes people don't want you to coach them. And I think I was doing natural coaching without permission. And now I have a much better kind of handle on when I'm doing it and when I'm not doing it to be in service of other people. So yeah, I fell into it, David, is the short answer. What you just had was the longer one.
Thanks a lot, Beth. Thanks for sharing. So I'm curious about what changed for you then in that process of coaching without having the certification and the accreditation, through to training with Animas and then gaining the accreditations. Like you said, you're currently working to PCC as well as you are ACC. What changed about you and your practice through that process?
It's a really great question, and I think it's probably I want to respond in two ways, because I think first off, the actual coaching credentialing process really sharpened my skills, my competencies, my ability to connect with another human being, to think very specifically, I suppose, about some of the functionalities of coaching. In terms of my PCC credentialing journey, it's become far more about who I am as a coach and really heightening my awareness to my style, to the things that I bring. In fact, I'm working with both a PCC mentor, but also in the supervision circle. And my coaching supervisor gave me some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful reflections the other day, incidentally in Animas, part of the Animas community. And he said, just all of your Bethness. It's expansive and it's big and there's a vulnerability to it. And I want more. And I was like, I want more too. And so there's something around, I feel very comfortable and competent as a competent coach, but now there's this, and who am I as a coach, and how can I bring myself into conversations in service of other people, which if I'd not gone down the credentialing process, I wouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't have the raised level of self-awareness of who I am and how I engage and interact and create relationship with other people. So yeah, it's been a profound journey actually. I would say that coaching has, as well as Lumina, has changed my life and my professional practice in ways that is only serving of me and also all of the people that I work with. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. It was that I definitely wanted to respond to that in two ways.
It definitely does. It definitely does. Thank you. And you said a couple of times, who am I as a coach? So I naturally have to ask the question, Beth, who are you as a coach?
To that one, yeah, it's a work in progress, David. It's a work in progress. Although we did write something yesterday. Ooh, it's on the sheet of paper and everything, because I was working within a facilitation context, but was using a lot of coaching principles. And it really two things struck me. One, I had some feedback from one of the people in the room who I am in a coaching partnership with. And she said, you have the ability to reflect things back to the individual in a way that no other coach I've ever worked with does, and no other person that I've come across does. And it's like, that's interesting. Okay. And as I think about who am I as a coach and the work that I'm doing in the PCC journey, it's like one of my, I'm noticing some discomfort here of owning it. So just bear with me a second. But one of my, big deep breath. One of my gifts as a coach is to be fully present with an individual. And from both observations and intuitions, I can hold up a mirror and go, what do you see? What do you see? In a way that's in service of that particular individual. And where that connects me yesterday and what I wrote on my piece of paper was that one of the things that I'm driven by is to support people to be the best version of themselves. And that starts by looking in a mirror, right? Sometimes you need somebody else to be holding the mirror. I appreciate that. So that individuals can enable a deeper relationship with themselves, and then have a deeper relationship with the people around them, the organizations that they're in, the things that they're doing to create greater impact. So I really believe it all starts with me, because if I can't change myself and I can't support the people that I'm working with to see what differences and changes they might need to make in their own life, then actually things don't move forward, not in a conscious way anyway. I appreciate that as a particular lens and a particular bias, because of course you could be looking at it from the outside in, but I like to work from the inside out and helping people work from the inside out. Yeah, I think that answers your question. I'm definitely a work in progress then, because I am still recognizing, appreciating, absorbing feedback from others. That I'm a little bit of everything everywhere all at once. I feel everything all the time, and how to bring the purposefulness, the playfulness, the directness, into all of my Bethness in service of other people. So just Beth, just be as me. That's it. There we go. That's who I am as a coach, David. Just Beth, just be. Just be present, you see.
Well, Beth, from one work in progress to another, thank you for sharing. And you mentioned, I think the line you said was supporting people to be the best versions of themselves. I'm curious to know more about how you do that, and perhaps is it the right time to introduce your business to everyone and what you do?
You can do that, yeah. So I probably need to give a bit of context behind that driver, actually. So I am really driven to supporting people to be the best version of themselves. But I think that probably comes from being a teenage mum, right? Which might sound like a strange thing to introduce into this conversation, but I know that falling pregnant at 18 and having parental responsibilities to support this little person to be the best version of themselves. I've been doing it for the entirety of my adult life. I learned on the job of being a parent how to coach, how to facilitate, how to be very directive, how to, organize time, etc., etc. And that's just part of who I am. It's inherent to who I am now because of that experience. And I know that translates directly into my work. So that's where the driver comes from. And I know that my kids, who incidentally are now both adults, my daughter is 25. It blows my mind. It actually gives me a bit of a brain aneurysm, especially when she turns around and says, Mum, I'm closer to 30 than I am 20. And I'm like, oh, that makes me really old. And she's like, that's just what it is. It's like, anyway. So yeah, my kids are the driver. I want to create a world that's better than the one that I've inherited to pass down to them. But it's really kind of deeply rooted. And in terms of my business and the ways that I do that, it kind of, I'm not going to give you a really kind of cohesive answer now, because it really depends on who's commissioning us, me, what they want me to achieve, and how best I can be in service. So there are a number of different strands to my work. Am I back?
I think you are. I don't know which side the connection blip was on.
Oh,
sorry.
What did you hear? I was in flow then. Never mind.
You're talking about helping people to be the best version of themselves, and then it suddenly went. But you were talking about you were well into talking about your experience of being a teenage parent, and you helping your daughter to become the best version of herself, and how she was 25 and closer to 30 than 20, and that makes you really old.
Well, it doesn't, but yes, it makes me feel old.
Makes you feel really old. Sorry.
It's all right.
It's my reflection skills aren't as good as yours. I miss out the key words.
It's fine. It is something that I'm aware of, those, especially as, my peer group have got either, small children or maybe teenage children, and mine are adults. It's a strange kind of, it's just my experience of the world. I think I think what you didn't hear then, because the internet glitched out, was about how that translates into my work. So I'm very clear and very aware that that's a core driver. I want to create a better world for my kids than the one that I exist in, so that when I'm no longer here, they've got something that, I want to play my part in creating a better world ultimately. And how that has manifested in my work is not necessarily neatly in a box. I've got lots of different strands to the work that I do: coaching, facilitation, leadership development, the psychometric stuff. And as we've talked about, the emergence of our Firefly Adventure program, which I never foresaw ever in my career path, but it's turned into something that has been very unexpected, is very exciting, is absolutely the consolidation of my own experiences with challenge, my own experiences as a coach, my own experiences of getting out and about and being in an adventurous, curious, unexpected, don't know what's going to happen space. And so if I just give you, if it's all right to just give you a bit of an overview of the program and where it came from, because I think where it came from is really important, because it's born out of a personal experience. Without sharing, too much that's inappropriate in this space, I've been through a really complicated separation and divorce journey from my ex-husband. He's still my best friend. The house that we've bought together. We're living together. We're just not together. We live on separate floors. This is a good arrangement, but it's our family kind of anchor, our family home. But when I was going through that separation, I was dabbling in a new relationship. It was a dabble. And this guy said to me, think of it like climbing a mountain. I'll start on one side and you start on the other, and providing we both keep stepping, we'll get to the top. And I immediately said yes, because I'm quite spontaneous and impulsive in that kind of, this sounds fun. Yeah, I'll say yes to that. And then after the fact went, I wonder what I've just committed to. I liked the metaphor. I use metaphor a lot in my coaching, but I needed to go and physically feel it. So started climbing hills with a colleague of mine. And to fast track sort of probably 18 months of story and a lot of hills, what I discovered was that I was learning more about myself in that environment than any other personal professional development that I've done previously. And I've done a lot because we do as coaches, don't we? And as facilitators, we invest in ourselves in order to maintain our own practice. Anyway, I learned, for example, sometimes you don't get to the top of a mountain because the weather turns or you haven't got the right equipment or somebody in the group needs to go back. So through no fault of our own, we don't get to the top. And it really helped me to let go of that relationship. It became really clear he'd stopped climbing. I didn't know why, but it was like, okay, that's that. And removed all of that strange, sometimes, relational, romantic synergy that you just want it. And it was like, it's gone. Okay, fine, fair enough. I learned that I have a very strong mind, but I also have physical limitations that are deeply frustrating. But actually, sometimes I need to ask for help because I don't have the capacities or the capabilities in the ways that my mind says that I have. That was a very humbling experience when we were doing the Yorkshire Three Peaks and I got to mile 19 and went, I can't go anymore. Like, there is nothing left in the tank. Oh, vulnerability overload because I'm going to have to ask for help and I'm going to have to ask somebody to go and get the car and take me to the pub to have a pint of Guinness. It was great. I enjoyed the pint of Guinness. but what was fascinating was because I asked for help once and realised there was no problem in that, it's enabled me to do that a lot more frequently in my actual life, which was very interesting. And it was at that moment, it's like, do you know what? I think there's a coaching program here. I think there's a way to combine my love of coaching and helping people to be the best version of themselves and my colleagues' experience and passion for being outdoors. He's a mountain leader. It's like, there's a way to combine this in a way that we can probably fast track people's experiences of growth. Because if we're doing it somatically and a full body, heart, mind, body, soul experience, then actually in a playful, exploratory, challenge-based way, we can help people be the best version of themselves. And yeah, so we've created a program, and we're on our second program already. We're literally in week 4 of our autumn Firefly adventure with another group of people who've trusted us for the 8 weeks, the 8-week program. Week 1, goal setting. What do you want to be in? What do you want to be different at the end? I can't speak. What do you want to be different at the end of the program? Week 2, exploring your relationship with challenge. And it's been fascinating, people's relationship with the word and the concept. Week 3, choosing challenge. So actually getting into the somatics and noticing where that hesitancy point is, where the brain gets activated. I can't. And going, can you? And doing that through a physical manifestation. We've got some particular activities in week 3 that help people identify the edge of their comfort zone. And week 4 is preparing for challenge. Okay, so we've got the exploration of your relationship with challenge. Now, how do you prepare for them? Whether they're chosen ones, like climbing Ben Nevis, or whether it's, this has just come into my life. How now do I calibrate and prepare for my response? Week 5 is the actual physical adventure. So we have a 4-day, 3-night residential where we bring everybody together for the first time in person. It's very much curated around the needs of the group. So our second adventure, this isn't going out in the next 4 weeks, is it? I'm just checking. Okay, good. Because our second adventure, it's not necessarily going to be about elevation. It's going to be about endurance and giving this particular group of people the opportunity to express out loud, to walk and talk. We've really noticed that that's the need in the group, not necessarily about elevation. Week 5 is about celebrating challenge. So it's rest and recovery, slowing down. Incidentally, our spring cohort found that the hardest week. It was fascinating. Is this something that's a wider thing in society where people struggle to slow down and also acknowledge they've already moved on to the next thing? Week 7 is about integrating challenge. So, really having a review of everything that's been learned, because we bill it as it's an adventure, it's discovery, it's exploration. It's not about necessarily achieving the thing. It's about the exploration. Instantly, they do achieve the thing. So one of our autumn adventurers, she set her end in mind. She wanted a job offer on the table by week 8. She had it by week 3. Jets in. I was very excited by that. I was like, wow. And then she said, oh my God, why have I been putting off? Why have I been procrastinating on just applying for the jobs? I don't know. Because she had a little bit of a thing around her relationship with challenge that was blocking her from taking the action. So anyway, week 7 is about integration. Week 8 is about completion. So actually, completing the experience in a conscious way. And then we do a 3-month check-in call after the program to see what's stuck, to see what's changed. And our spring adventures, obviously they're post-program now. And I had a beautiful message from one of them over the weekend. She'd just done a half marathon. And I just said, oh my God, that's amazing. And she said, I just want you to know this. I had a text from one of my friends who said, I am just so inspired by your willingness to step into the difficult things. And this particular adventurer said to me via text, she said, I wouldn't have done that had I not done Firefly. It's completely shifted my perspective on how I approach difficult things. And I just sat there going, I think we made a thing. I think the thing's working. Let's do a few more programs, obviously being really mindful to ensure that every single person who's come in is having the experience on that individual basis. But from a slightly wider perspective, it's like, I wonder what's going to start emerging as kind of group themes that we can really continue the iterations and the development of the program. So super exciting. I mean, I never, ever, 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 ever foresaw that in my career path, but it does. It feels like this consolidation of all of the things that I'm interested in. Yeah, that was a lot of words. Sorry, David.
Thank you. No, Beth, amazing. I mean, we had a fabulous conversation about this a few weeks ago, and as someone who's solo traveled around the world for a year, I'm such a massive advocate of there's so much growth you can get from conversations, and I mean that's incredible in itself with the power of coaching. But then when you add a physical challenge onto that as well, and you put yourself physically out of your comfort zone, it's just that the effect of it is compounded, and the results are just unbelievable. It's kind of the progress you can make is limitless.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that. I mean, I could share a few examples. There's one particular individual in the autumn program. Bear in mind, we're only in week 4. But they set the intention, or that their end of program goal was to be in a position to use their voice. They were recognizing that literally blocks, not using their voice. And last week really had a moment as we started to explore the physical edge of comfort zone and get in tune with what was happening in their body, and the recognition that the heart flutters and that, there's a bit of a retraction. And this week, they came into the WhatsApp chat, because we've got a WhatsApp group to keep everybody connected. It's our peer learning space. And they came in and they said, I've just noticed it. And this is what I did. I stepped forward and I used my voice, and it's created an outcome that I couldn't have anticipated that is in service of me and my children. Oh my God, she said, I can't believe it. And now she's moved into a place of, I want to practice. I want to play with this a little bit more and notice those areas where I'm holding back and just lean in a little bit and see what happens. And so a bit of context, I have been coaching this particular individual out of the adventure context. So but it's massive, and it's taken 4 weeks of an adventure program to actually get her into the place where she can see the value of behaving and doing something differently. And I have reflected on it, because I love straight coaching, for want of a better phrase. But very often it's on a screen like this, and it's intellectual, and it's head based and thinking based. And I am, that's not true. Of course it's not, because a lot happens when we're in conversation with people. But there's something about the physical enactment of something and actually activating mind, body, heart, and soul that just fast tracks it just fast tracks the potential outcome, which is extraordinary, actually. And actually, I'm just riffing now, but there's another adventure on the autumn program. Oh my goodness, she touches my heart so much, because where she got to, it was a massive breakthrough yesterday, because where she got to yesterday was, I think I've overcommitted. I actually don't think that the adventure right now is the right fit. I don't think it's serving me. And what it's highlighted is that I say yes to so many things in my life that it doesn't give me the space to actually look after myself properly, or the space to really but really respond to the challenges that are actually the most important for me at this moment in time. And it may be that she chooses not to come on the physical adventure, and I will take that as a massive win, because then she's rubbed up against what's really present for her and is making a new choice. I mean, wow. And I said to all of the adventurers on this autumn program, the mountains will always reveal what's present. They just will, because you get confronted. That's probably too evocative a word, but you get met with yourself. And that feels like a huge privilege to be able to hold that kind of space for people. So we'll keep doing it until there's a reason to not doing it. Hopefully it will just continue to grow and expand in a way that is really, sustainable, and bringing the levels of impact that we want to see in the world, and helping people to be the best version of themselves. We'll see. We're just leaning into the adventure.
Wow. I love it, Beth. I absolutely love it. Huge fan of it myself. And like I say, we've had some great conversations about it. It seems like there's an underlying theme in our conversation of reflection. We spoke about it at the start. We've come back to it again, and becoming the best version of yourself, and getting to meet yourself on a Firefly adventure. There's a lot of coaches that I speak to, including myself, who are interested in the possibility of eventually bringing together a group, because there's so much impact you can have working one-to-one, and then it can feel a little bit restrained. And there's obviously a lot of power in things like walking and talking coaching to get someone, if you sit with the problem, it can be really hard to see a solution. If you're sad, particularly if you're sat in the place where the problem is, so getting moving is really powerful. But coaches are interested in running, facilitating a group workshop, bringing a group of people together, haven't done it before, are thinking about maybe not a full-scale retreat, but even just the prospect of working with multiple people at the same time. Is there any advice or guidance you give from all your years? I can't not tap into all your years of experience of facilitation and ask you kind of, where do we start? How do we get started? And is there any sort of tips or advice you give for entering the world of facilitation for the first time, group coaching?
It's probably worth me just sharing a little bit about how I fell into facilitation. Talk about my journey through facilitation and how coaching has kind of weaved into it. Then what I think I do as a facilitator. I don't know if I do this. It's an instinctive response. And then how I might give advice or guidance for somebody starting in that space. So I fell into facilitation, and I think it's really important to, again, say that I learned on the job. So when I first graduated, I did a degree in arts management. My career started in storytelling, in creativity, in creative practice, in connection and communication. And I started working for a receiving house in Yorkshire, and was responsible for a youth theatre of 300 kids coming through the doors each week and coming into a workshop environment. And I learned on the job how to manage a group, how to hold space, how to really clearly set out the framework of what wanted to be achieved, how to manage the dynamics of people in the room, how to expect the unexpected. And you can't beat working with teenagers to be able to really, put your feet to the fire in terms of, okay, so this is what it is, and I've got to figure out how to hold this space. And what I suppose I learned through doing that is the ability to set a really clear objective. This is what we are here to do and explore, to create the framework, to really clearly communicate the expectations, how we want to work together as a group. It's a bit like group contracting within the coaching space, and then get playful with it. Once you set the frame, actually, it doesn't matter what happens in the middle, because that allows for the organic nature of people being people and coming into that kind of context. So I definitely balance structure and fluidity in terms of the way that I do things. And I've lost my thread, Because I said 4 things. I said it really clearly, and I've lost my thread. Give me a prompt.
So it was around about, how you started with your journey into facilitation and how someone could approach that if they've not done it before, but they're interested in getting it in order to add make more impact in the world by working with multiple people at the same time.
Okay, I'm gonna sound really cliche now. Just do it. Just do it and see what happens. You know what? If I was speaking to somebody who wanted to be in that space, I'd probably be asking, coach hat on for a second, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Who are the people that you want to bring together and for what purpose and for what reason? What is going to be the best mechanism to support that learning, whatever it is? And that's it, I think. It sounds really... I struggle with trying to define what facilitation is because it's so much of everything. And sometimes people can just think it's just somebody standing at the front of the room. It's definitely not somebody just standing at the front of the room. And the way that I'm doing that, right? I'm doing that because when I'm in a group of people and holding space for a group of people, it's almost as though I see little speech bubbles above their heads, right? And every time they say something interesting, it goes into the speech bubble. And so I'm viewing all those speech bubbles at any one time, and then something else might be said, and I'll go, oh, this person over here said something that relates and connects to that. Let me just bring those 2 things together. And then an alchemy and magic will happen because I've connected 2 things that were relevant to those 2 people. So yeah, it is. And it's pretty much consistent. I see speech bubbles above people's heads and I deposit the things that I'm seeing or hearing or, I know that they want, or I'm seeing like energies between people and go, oh, I wonder what happens if I connect those 2 people.
Yeah.
Obviously within service of what it is that's trying to be achieved. Just do it. Just do it. I mean, yeah, because even with the adventure program, we had no plan. It was just a case of let's bring some people together and see what happens. Oh, we brought some people together. We set a frame. We tested some of the ideas and the concepts. It had some outcomes that we weren't necessarily anticipating, but definitely informed us in terms of, I think there's something here. Designed a full program. Had our spring program, the impact and, the outputs were, I think we've made it. Okay, let's try again. Let's see if we can enroll another group of people who are interested in this place and space to play. Oh, we've got a second program. That's interesting. And some connections between the 2 are beginning to occur. It's like, okay, now we've got a bit of a steer of where we go next in terms of, we'll run 3 programs next year, a spring, a summer and an autumn program. And I've got even greater clarity of how we do that, how we're able to onboard people even more effectively, how we're able to create the framework that people are playing in, how we're able to meet people where they're at. Again, there's one particular adventure this time around, and I'm going, if we'd spent a little bit more time in the onboarding process, which is good, but there's probably some tweaks to make, we might have discovered a few more things that contextually would have been really helpful at the start of the journey rather than halfway up, metaphorically and soon to be literally. So yeah, just do it. Just do it. See what happens. But that also could be my preference and my bias to play with life and just go, I think this could work, so let's try it and see what happens. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Thanks, Beth. Yeah,
that's what's coming out of the mouth.
I'm a great believer in sort of, fix forward and learn on the job. And, and also that there's sort of, I'd never underestimate what can happen when a group of like-minded individuals come together. And I'm a great believer that, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. and bringing people together, particularly that have those mutual interests and that, that hunger for personal development, can just, the connections can happen and the sparks can be firing, as you're there. And maybe you'll be required to get that started. But once it's started, I know I went on a retreat a couple of years ago at the beginning of my travels, and it was a personal development yoga meditation retreat. And the power of the connection between the individuals and the fact that we all grew and developed together, and there were tears of joy, there were tears of sadness, kind of every emotion on the spectrum was present in that room. And over the period of a week, we all bonded, and we're still talking now a couple of years later. And yet we only spent a week together, but it feels like we spent months together because we did so much, and we all grew together, and we all definitely aired our dirty laundry to each other as well.
Yeah, and there's a real power and an alchemy in that peer learning space. So if I put that into sort of practical example again with the adventure program, and I'm only talking about that because we're literally in it as we speak, is people will start creating connections organically and naturally. So there's quite a lot of preemptive energy required from myself and my colleague to get it rolling, to get it started. But then we're halfway through, and there's a bit more of a hands-off approach now, because it's like, I just need to just gently nudge people in a particular way, or ask a particular question, or do that reflection, and they're starting to do it themselves now, which is just magic, because the right people come into the right space at the right time to be in service of whatever is happening. And in fact, the conversation I had this morning, we didn't talk about that before we came on the call, but it was with a lady in Singapore. And it was a LinkedIn connection, and she'd connected with something that I was saying about coaching outdoors. Oh my goodness, the synergy between us. And she's on the other side of the flipping planet. And we were talking about open space technology and the idea that what happens is the thing that's meant to happen. And that if we just allow organically things to do their thing, a bit like nature, it will just, something will grow, something will happen. And it's a principle, a bit like Gestalt. So I did some Gestalt training a few months ago. It's like, just be present to what is, no forcing anything, what is. And that will happen in any kind of group facilitation. It's like, well, let's just respond to what is right here, right now, and then find our way forward, which feels incredibly liberating, actually. So yeah, just do it. Just do it and see what happens.
Thanks, Beth. I was thinking it's a great segue into sort of just mentioning, the power of learning and growing together as a group. It's my question that naturally comes from that is, what was it like learning and growing together as a group when you did the Animas Diploma back in 2021?
And I can't believe it was that long ago, actually. I loved it. I loved it. It's interesting. My words just stopped, because it's more of a feeling rather than something that's cognitive. So I just loved the energy of the program. I liked the framework. I flipping loved the presence module. That one really spoke to me, but that's probably because I was starting to really get in tune with who I am as a coach, and this reflection piece, and let me be present to what is rather than, preempting anything. Loved that module. And I was in a really interesting cohort, actually, and ended up in a coaching triad with two fantastic women. I really gravitated towards both of them. And it was interesting because all of us gravitated towards each other and sent each other separate messages and established our triad. And that triad became a friendship, and we're still connected even now, which is just what a rich, unexpected outcome. And brilliant women. And I learned from everybody in the room, because they were, people at very different stages of their coaching career. And I suppose I came into the diploma having some awareness of coaching, having some awareness of my own facilitation practice, which albeit is different, because with facilitation, there's an outcome to deliver. I deliver the outcome. I set the agenda. I lead, I guide. With the coaching, it's obviously the client's agenda, isn't it? And it took me a little while, actually, to kind of go, oh, am I in facilitator mode or am I in coach mode? And how can I contract and fuse the both? And how can I have clean coaching and make sure that it's totally client led? It's been an interesting thing for me to play with, actually, because the two disciplines are quite different. But yeah, I learned from every single person in the diploma. It was just joy. It was joyous. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it.
So glad to hear it. Thanks for sharing, Beth. Because I know from my side, having been now behind the curtain at Animas, I see that a lot of time and effort goes into placing the right people in the course, at the right time, and ensuring the cohort size is appropriate. And, the whole design of the course is so much thought has gone into it, and it's been refined over quite a few years now of it running. So glad to hear that, just like for you, my experience was also that they got it right. They just got it right, and it just felt right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I did it through, admittedly, I had the ILM experience, which wasn't me, and it is for other people. I'm not dissing the ILM. I just knew it wasn't for me. Went through all of that, spent my thousands of pounds on the qualification, got 95% through and went, no, 3 hours on the Animas introduction. It's like this one, this, because I felt it. It was, there was an energy.
Like a chemical reaction, like an alchemy.
There was very much. Yeah. And I often refer back to that time and that experience as being transformative in terms of my professional practice, without a shadow of a doubt. So grateful to the dude who said, I can't employ you as a coach until you've got a credential. Like, oh, there we go. And this is what I mean. I have no plan. I am just going to be completely responsive to what life has given me. All right, well, I want to do this work, and you've said I can't until I've got a credential. Let me go and get the credential. So, yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing. If someone's been listening, Beth, and they're really interested to hear about more, and I know we haven't even covered what you're doing to develop the leaders of the future, because there is just so many sort of things that you're involved with, so many plates you're spinning. But if someone is really interested to find out more and would like to know, how they can maybe get some more information about the Firefly Adventures, where should they go and how can they?
Oh, great question. I would direct them either to my LinkedIn profile. So I don't have a website for my personal work. It's something that is pending. It's coming. I haven't needed it up until this point. But and I remember a friend saying, because when I first started as a freelancer, I said, oh, I need a website, because everyone's got a website and I probably ought to have one. And she said, why do you need a website? What's it for? And I couldn't answer. And she said, isn't it just a sales function? I was like, yeah. She said, are you getting enough work? Yeah. How's it coming? Word of mouth. Do you need a website right now? It's like, oh, no, it was wonderful to be able to let go of that, actually. And I'm moving into a space where I'm recognizing that being able to have a central conduit and to capture everything is probably a good idea. But I segued. So LinkedIn, my LinkedIn profile, or if people are interested in the adventure, fireflyadventure.co.uk is where we are. It's a very sort of provisional website at this moment in time. We're not website designers and we're not business owners per se. We are coaches and mountain leaders who are figuring this out as we go along. But if anyone wants to just have a bit of a read and an overview of what the program is, when the dates are for 2025, to reach out to us, that's another conduit. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm looking at that website now, and the tagline, if it doesn't challenges, it doesn't changes.
That's the one.
Couldn't agree more. And I also agree that there's nothing like a pint of Guinness after doing the Yorkshire 3P.
Oh my God, so good. That was such a good pint. I enjoyed it so much. It's like, oh, I've earned this. And oh my God, I'm feeling all of the feels. And oh my God, my body's knackered. And oh my God, my brain's going through like a real internal, yeah. Oh, that was such a good pint.
Glad to hear it. And that's definitely feels like the right time to thank you for your time today and to draw our interview to a close. The time has flown.
Really has. Well, thank you, David, for some really wonderful prompts and for going with the ebbs and the flows of the life of Beth and everything else in between. It's been a real pleasure. So thank you for inviting me to come and share.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.